Hello, I'm Jill Collins, a teacher at the STEM Academy of Pennsylvania County Schools. So previously we talked about what watersheds are, and watersheds are areas of land that drains into a specific body of water. So rainwater drains down the land and into the streams, creeks, or rivers, and then eventually flows into a larger body of water and then to the ocean. And we live in the Roanoke River watershed. In particular, we live in the Downriver Basin. So I'm going to demonstrate what a watershed is using the Enviroscape. So this Enviroscape has areas of land just like where we live. There's little mountain ranges, there's farming, there's construction going on, housing developments, a golf course, a factory. So all of these in your roadways. So all these areas can lead to different types of pollution. And unfortunately, pollution does go downstream, because remember, we all live downstream, and it flows into other areas within our watershed. The different types of pollution that we talk about normally are ones that have to do with the air, the water, or those that are on land. Anything considered a pollution would smell bad, feel bad to your skin. Some of them are colorless or odorless, but they are very toxic to our environment. So looking at our Enviroscape, you can have a non-point source and you can have a point source of pollution. So the non-points, those are ones that you just can't particularly say, hey, it directly came from this. Just like this plant here. We would consider this plant to be a point source solution. So if it were to leak something, just like the power plant in Eden that's close to us in Eden, North Carolina, it released the cold ash into our Dan River and it affected us. So here we know that it comes directly out, and you guys can see the pollution coming out from the factory area, and you can see it flowing down into the larger waterway. So that would be a point source, because I can just point to that area. So a non-point source would be if you saw trash or litter like on the side of the road, you don't know exactly who threw it out of the car or it flew out of the back of a truck. So we can consider all of that trash on the sides of the road. Those would be non-point, because we don't know exactly who let that go into our environment. So I'm going to use some sprinkles to represent trash. Another thing would be if you go walking your dog. And if you walk your dog, you should also always carry the doggy bags to clean up their mess. So if we're thinking about over here, if someone has walked their dog, so we're going to add some chocolate sprinkles into our area. And looking at other green areas on this Enviroscape, up here in the golf course, they definitely put some pesticides and all the fertilizer on their greens. In the neighborhood, that could be also a place where pollution could lead into the drain storms and then eventually into the larger waterways. Up here you guys see the trees. So what would happen there? Deforestation. You've seen trees being cut down in our area, and if they don't go back and make sure that they have the ground cut just right, it's going to cause erosion. So that could also be a cause of pollution into our waterways, which would affect our organisms that live in the water. Construction. Up here we have a construction site. So the construction site, what would happen? Think about it, these big tractors in there, and if they're not monitoring that gas or that oil could leak, so we could add some oil or gas maybe leaking into the soil, and then when it rains, it's going to be washed. Also with the cars, we talked about trash along the roadway, but what if they leak some gas or oil as they're traveling? That could also run into the water drainage areas and eventually into our larger sources of water. So right now you guys can see it looks kind of gross, it looks kind of nasty, all this pollution that I've added to the Enviroscape. So now what happens if there is a rain? What happens when it rains? So where is all that going to travel? And you can see we have a light shower happening, and then we have a little bit harder rain. So unfortunately it does flow down, because that's what happens in a watershed. It all flows down into an area of water, a larger area of water. So now after a rain happens, all that surface water will lead into the larger body of water. But some of that pollution does get soaked into our ground, and that groundwater could also be contaminated into the aquifers. So please remember to watch pollution. There are different types of pollution. We want to keep our waterways safe and healthy for all those that live downstream. We want to thank again the Dam River Basin Association and the Virginia Environmental Endowment for helping us with this project to reach you 6th graders, and we hope you enjoy the activities that we are providing for you. Thank you.